Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the stream this Thursday afternoon. I am Isabel Brown, an independent content creator and full-time live streamer, here to talk about the biggest trending cultural issues with you every single day right here at 3 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Getter, and Locals, and hopefully soon to be some other platforms as well that are rolling out RTMP streaming, like our gang over on Instagram and TikTok. Really excited to continue seeing the stream grow and all of your amazing, beautiful names pop up in our live chat. It is always an honor to spend some time with you every afternoon, and today is no exception. Thank you guys so much for your patience. I know we're starting a little bit later than normal, right at the 3 p.m. Eastern top of the hour time period. It is because for the fourth night in a row, I have gotten no sleep because my dog has been really sick this week. So I'm learning that I'm having a very effective pre-trial into what it is like to have a newborn baby. And I reinforced this to my fiance this morning after I got no sleep for the fourth day in a row. As much as I'm excited to be a parent with you someday, I will absolutely take the sleep that I can get in the next several years, especially right after we are married. It has been a good trial, and I have extreme baby fever. I love babies so much, and I want a bunch of them, but I don't know that I'm quite ready for multiple weeks on end of absolutely no sleep. So that's why we're starting a couple of minutes late, and I appreciate your guys' patience with that, but I can promise you today's stream is absolutely worth it, even though we are going to be a little bit later in the afternoon today. Do me a huge favor as we are kicking things off today and getting started by first and foremost helping this stream get boosted in the algorithm. Smash that like button, which could look like a little thumbs up or a little heart button, depending on where you are watching, so that more people get the opportunity to see. Ring the notification bell so that you always know when we are going live. And most importantly, smash that follow or subscribe button wherever you guys are watching. This is what helps our channels continue to grow, which we're seeing so much exciting growth, especially on Rumble and YouTube in the last couple of weeks. I'm so grateful for you guys and can't wait to see all of the important conversations and exciting content we are able to make and have in the next several months as we continue to grow. We're going to start by saying hello to everybody in our live chat per usual. So if you are joining us and you're new around here, let us know who you are and where you are watching from in our chat over off to the side. Today is very interactive and we want as much of your guys' input as possible because we are talking about last night's presidential debate that happened in Simi Valley, California at the Reagan Library. Just for the record, we did some post-debate analysis a couple of weeks ago after the Milwaukee, Wisconsin debate, which I was able to attend in person. And we would also be doing post-debate analysis for the left if they were having any debates. They are not, unfortunately, because they've decided that transparency with voter bases is not something that is of value to the Democrat Party in 2024. So if they ever do decide to have a debate, we'll be analyzing those ones as well. But these are getting really important because this is the start of the conversation that we're seeing on a more serious level about the 2024 election cycle, and certainly determines the future of who the president of the United States is going to be in the next couple of months, which is very exciting. So we're excited to be doing that again today. I know you guys have been asking for a lot of political analysis going into 2024, and I'm happy to oblige because I am a huge political nerd, but I want all of your guys' opinions and takeaways from your experience watching the debate, or just what you think is going on politically and culturally in America and around the world today outside of the debate. So make sure you're using our live chat feature throughout the stream today. As you guys are introducing yourselves, I want to take a very quick second and thank our amazing sponsor of today's stream, our friends over at Public Square. One of the most important things that you can do to influence culture wherever you live, wherever your business interests are, wherever you happen to vote, or however old you are, is by voting with your dollar and consciously supporting as a consumer businesses that share your values. Public Square is the easiest place to go find businesses that are all pro-life, pro-family, and pro-freedom. There are now 65,000 plus American small businesses all present on Public Square's platform. Everything from food to be delivered from local farms and ranches right to your door from companies like Good Ranchers, to skincare and makeup that is clean, safe, and non-toxic and made in the USA. Clothing companies, people to plan your vacation, literally everything you can possibly imagine. You can find and support businesses that share your values on publicsq.com or by downloading their app using the link that I just dropped in our live chat, Public SQ on the App Store or Google Play. And most importantly, if you guys are small business owners at all of any kind, you need to be on Public Square. So many of you guys have added your business over the last several months and seen massive growth in your consumer base and in people who are supporting your businesses. And I know because I see the reports with how many of you guys are signing up that they send to me. So really excited that you guys are utilizing all of the great features of this amazing platform. And as they continue to grow to an international base and roll out e-commerce right there in the Public Square app, it is somewhere you absolutely need to be. Since the debate was streamed exclusively on Rumble last night, let's kick things off by saying hello to everybody in our Rumble chat. TZ Patriot is here. Emerson on Rumble is watching. We've got Tito here reminding everybody to like the stream. Thank you so much, Tito. Colleen is watching and so glad you are here. Over on Getter, Nitty Witty, my interlude and libertarian are kicking things off in our chat. On YouTube, Deloon, GFact, and Total Package are here. Church La Stravosa and Red Scorpion are watching. Hello to you, Northern Wanderer and Nintendo Fan. Nintendo Fan says, my school is introducing all gender bathrooms. I'm worried what might happen. Yikes. Would love to hear more about that. Send me a direct message on Instagram or an email with more details because we'd love to unpack that on the stream. Brenda and OD are watching. We've got Mighty here. Amy is watching and many others. Hey guys, glad you are here. And our locals gang is ready for debate analysis. Magic Def, Caitlin, Alex, and Johnny are watching. We've got M-Rock and Tito here in the chat and many others. You guys, so happy that you are here, and I hope you are ready for all of the unfiltered debate analysis after last night's presidential debate. In just a few minutes, we're going to be welcoming in some of my amazing friends and fellow political/cultural content creators in the space, Jobob and Chrissy Clark. But before we do that, I just wanted to share some key takeaways that I had with you from watching last night's debate on my sofa here in Miami, Florida. I am particularly excited that the next presidential debate is going to be here in Miami in the beginning of November, I believe. So hopefully we'll be able to get some really great interviews and content filmed while all of the candidates are here in town, and I'm very excited for that. But last night, I did not travel all the way across the country to Los Angeles to go see in person. I was in the audience in Milwaukee, and my fiance was actually able to attend yesterday in Los Angeles. It was his first time ever flying into LAX. His report was just about what I expected it to be, and he was very happy to come home immediately this morning after the debate. But as I was sitting there watching the debate on my couch last night, I don't know if you guys had the same key takeaways or reactions or experience watching. I was immediately struck with the fact that this second debate felt far more hostile, felt much more combative, and a lot more scripted, if you will, or buttoned up or inauthentic from many of these candidates. Unlike the really relaxed, authentic window into who they truly were that I think we saw in Milwaukee, Wisconsin several weeks ago. I felt like people were trying so hard to be Donald Trump in 2016 on the debate stage last night that it was far more about attacking one another, throwing insults at each other, calling other people stupid, and or trying to position yourself as president of the United States, period, end of story. Come whatever cost that may be a result of that. Colleen, thank you so much for your donation in our super chat. Really appreciate it. So I saw all of this happening and unfolding in real time, and I was just unimpressed, to be honest with you. Whereas the first debate, I felt like there were key standout moments from almost every single candidate that they had my attention. They gripped me. I was leaning forward. I was listening intently to everything they were saying, and I was like, yes, you've got me. Something like that would win my vote. There were, of course, the opposite reaction as well during this last debate in Milwaukee, where I was like, you've lost me almost instantaneously. There were at least moments where individuals were able to shine through and share with me something special that grabbed my attention. Last night, I failed to have any single moment, with the exception of one, where I was leaning forward. I was constantly integrated into what this person was saying. They had me. I was ready. Last night was just mid, extremely lackluster. I was really unimpressed with the performance from many of these candidates, not because they had bad ideas per se, but because it just felt so political theater, almost like an episode out of Veep or Parks and Recreation last night, that I couldn't, honest to God, take it seriously. African Warlord says in our chat, it was honestly painful to watch. And Magic Def says, I saw no VPs in that field or presidents for that matter. It really did feel like I was watching the episode of Parks and Rec where Leslie's running for city council and they're all up on that stage, and it's like so unbelievably outrageous during their city council debate, with Brandy Max, the porn star, and Leslie trying to talk about politics, but she ends up talking about TV shows, and Bobby Newport sharing his dad's influence in society. That's honestly what it felt like. It felt like scripted television more than it felt like an authentic conversation with the potential next president of the United States about where Americans are really hurting. To Dana Perino's credit, she was a fantastic host last night. I thought she did a really great job actually trying to get the candidates to answer the questions that she was presenting to them. I thought it was really chaotic with 3 moderators. In my opinion, they probably should have just had Dana moderate because the other 2 had a really hard time controlling the conversation and just let people scream over each other. But she did try to ask great questions, Dana did, about how people are financially hurting in this country, where people are struggling to find adequate health care, where culturally we're struggling with issues like transitioning children and the transgender debate. There were great questions, but I felt like very few to almost none of the answers captivated the heart and soul of what Americans are going through culturally and politically alike in the United States going into 2024. And it was really frustrating for me seeing just the scripted talking points, the I have to work in as your next president, I will fix this to every single answer, and just the really shallow, cringy one-liners that people thought were going to be zingers and ended up falling completely flat or trying to attack one another to try to position themselves as strong. It just came across really childish to me and very combative in a non-effective way. Whereas Donald Trump attacking other candidates in 2016 came across really effective, right? He came across as a fighter. He came across as somebody willing to pack a punch. And last night just looked like the child's version of pretending to do that, in my opinion. There are a couple of videos I would love for us to react to, but namely, there are a few things I want to talk about before we welcome in our amazing friends Jobob and Chrissy for some post-debate analysis from the millennial and Gen Z perspective. First and foremost being, there was one question in particular that really, really bothered me and prompted me to make a video almost instantaneously to post on one platform in particular. If you guys are not new to the stream and you've been around for a while, it's probably really easy for you to understand what that question might be. And you probably already guessed it. It was related to TikTok. There was a question posed to Vivek Ramaswamy, who I actually really have enjoyed his performance in both of these debates. The 25 years old voting thing just continues to bother me so fundamentally. I wish he would let go of that, but he won't yet. So if he lets go of it, we'll have a different conversation, but I've really enjoyed his performance in the debate so far. They asked him about why he would meet with TikTok influencers or even officials for TikTok, and why the importance of TikTok as a platform should even remotely be relevant to the 2024 election. They asked this because he ended up playing tennis with Jake Paul a few weeks ago, and there were a lot of videos about it on TikTok, and he's started to see the value of TikTok as a way to communicate conservative values, a campaign platform, and just objective truth to the next generation. You guys know I am a huge proponent of utilizing TikTok as a platform. I think it's really fundamentally misunderstood for valid reason, because there are very strategic fake news stories and very slanted misinformation being presented to a lot of our politicians about it, and people in positions of influence with their own podcasts and live streams, etc. But the amount of complete cultural ignorance and being totally out of touch with where people are consuming information from every other candidate on that stage other than Vivek Ramaswamy about TikTok and about how young people are consuming information, even if it's not on TikTok, even if it's through Rumble, which is garnering insane live streaming viewership, while these debates are live, whether it's through Instagram or even X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Social media really is the future. And when you're watching this TV style debate where everyone gets a 15-second soundbite to answer questions that, to be honest, they don't even really get anyway because they just talk over each other the entire time and utilize the whole thing to say, when I'm president, things will be different. What we are really hungry for is someone who's willing to communicate to us in a language that we understand, in a venue where we are already present, like TikTok or like other social media platforms, and without trying to make things sound like scripted TV sound bites. We are so far beyond that era of media and information, but you wouldn't be able to tell because every single candidate, with the exception of one up on that stage, took it upon themselves to make it seem like if you're getting your information through social media or through live streams like this one, you are stupid. You are unaware. You are an idiot. Come on, let's get real. So I ended up making a reaction video to that's making some waves over on TikTok in particular, but wanted to share my thoughts with you on that question right now. Like many of you sitting here watching the Republican presidential debate, and I just continue to be baffled about how truly ignorant and or unaware politicians are about TikTok. Everybody up on that stage, everybody in Congress, everybody in the executive branch loves to repeat this common talking point fed to them from lobbying firms out of Washington, D.C., that your data, your private information, your name and contact info is in the hands of the CCP. And that's exactly what was said by Nikki Haley last night when they were asking Vivek Ramaswamy about TikTok. She said, you're in bed with China and you've done business with China and you're pro-China if you use TikTok, which is so far beyond the ridiculousness of this situation. It's so difficult for me to even wrap my head around. In reality, there is not a single documented example ever of the Chinese Communist Party getting your data, accessing your private data from TikTok. Never. There's not one example of that, even though there are countless other documented examples of Meta, for example, selling your data to the CCP and Russia, or even our own government through the FBI, spying on you through platforms like Twitter. So let's be incredibly clear about this. They don't really care about your data security. What they're really worried about is this is the one platform that they, A, don't own stock in, and B, isn't in bed with the United States government because it's not a United States-based company to begin with, and therefore has much different algorithms and different ways for people to share information than what we have here in the United States. So the double standard there just bothers me to no freaking end, in my opinion, but I digress. Clutches pearls, especially of your children if you use this dangerous app. Even though if we start thinking with our brains for like half a second, I'm pretty sure the CCP could get your name and contact info because they make our phones if they really wanted to anyway. Let alone the fact that there is not one shred of evidence, no documented example ever recorded of TikTok giving your data to the CCP. But there are countless documented examples of Meta and Twitter selling your data to China, Russia, and even your own United States government to spy on you. But we're not worried about that. And just as she's so smart, who is this chick? A reminder, all of this is all talking points in order to get legislation passed that's currently being debated in Congress called the Restrict Act, to ban TikTok, which actually doesn't even mention banning TikTok at all in the legislation, but is instead a modern Patriot Act to spy on you and regulate what we are allowed to post on the internet, and even treat you as an American citizen as a foreign enemy to the United States government if you pose a threat to national security. What could possibly go wrong? But everyone attacking people like Vivek Ramaswamy for hanging out with TikTok influencers or trying to utilize the power of TikTok to get your message out there is so culturally unaware of the power of grassroots social media, especially for our generation. Dang, I was on one last night. Let's be clear. Woo! I was feeling sassy. There are 150 million plus Americans who are active on this app every single month, upwards of 70% of whom are Gen Zers. Guess what Gen Zers are not watching? TV! Any TV! Televised debates, or TV news hits and interviews, the commercials that you're running on TV. Instead, they're here. They're on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube
They're on social media. There is a generation right around the corner that is soon to be the largest voter bloc America has ever seen, that is voting with record turnout, that is very passionate about taking an active role in determining the future of politics and culture alike in our country. And if you call them stupid for consuming information in a new generational way and simultaneously refuse to go where those people are, they probably are not going to vote for you. I honestly feel like this should not be that hard to understand.
Total Package just said in our chat, the last thing they want is a populace that thinks for itself, that has a brain, a heart, and courage that's dangerous to them. They fear that more than anyone else. They can't control people when they're on platforms like TikTok. They fear an informed, compassionate, and courageous people more than anything else, because such a people wouldn't be easily controlled, wouldn't be easily manipulated with their fear tactics and lies, and wouldn't be easily subdued. It is fascinating to me that people continue to attack TikTok for your data privacy and data security. And this is becoming such a massive talking point in the 2024 election cycle on both sides with both political parties, when those same people fall completely silent when, I don't know, what we talked about yesterday comes into fruition, when our own intelligence agencies admit that they are rolling out their own AI programming to sort through all of your data through all 18 U.S. intelligence agencies, while they are simultaneously labeling American citizens as enemies to the United States government and as radical extremists. We don't bat an eye when U.S.-based companies sell your data to the CCP and to Russia or to our own government, but we love to feel high and mighty and point the finger at the one app and the one platform where people are digesting information that isn't in bed with the United States government, don't we? So the amount that people had instant backlash to Vivek Ramaswamy saying, if you want people to vote for you, you have to be where people are. You have to go share information on platforms like TikTok, just boiled my blood and really got under my skin, to be completely honest with you. It just goes to show how truly culturally out of touch most of our politicians are with how people are consuming information and how people are accessing objective truth through grassroots independent commentary and independent content creation in a world and culture that is trying to make that more and more difficult with every passing day through mainstream media and controlled social media platforms alike. It really, really bothers me, and it gives me a really hard time trusting the integrity of many of these politicians when they don't say anything when it's convenient to them, but they love to play this high and mighty moral game when it makes them look good against China on debate stages. There were a few other key standout moments, in case you didn't get to watch the debate last night, that really stood out to most people on TikTok, and we're going to watch a few examples of those right now before we welcome our friends in. Some are very cringy, some stood out to me as really positive, but we'll point a few of those out before we welcome in our friends, and then on the other side of our conversation, I will share some of my key takeaways, and if I have a message for the Republican Party and candidates on the debate stage in Miami in the next couple of weeks, what that message would be. So let's check this out.
You mentioned me in the question. I just want...
Can we just talk really quick about the DeSantis smile? This happened in Milwaukee. It happened again last night in California. I think probably he had somebody on his campaign staff or in a focus group tell him he needs to smile more and like relax more. But the smiling more is just coming across so uncomfortable, like so uncomfortable standing up on a stage, being in front of people. The creepy smile memes are just to die
these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen.
I can't.
You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
you mentioned...
Cringe, cringe, cringe. If Chris Christie genuinely thought he was going to be making some massive impact or difference by calling Donald Trump Donald Duck, do you realize that most people can't even remember the last time they've seen Donald Duck in something? Like, hello? You just made yourself seem so old.
But I got to admit, I've been sleeping with a teacher for 38 years.
No one needed to know that, Mike. We know you're married. We know you have children and grandchildren. Why tell us about your sex life on the debate stage? Cringe.
You mentioned me in the question.
There's the smile.
4 years ago.
This isn't productive.
I want to hear about that.
Let's have a policy debate. What's going on? Let us have a policy debate.
For the record, this was what 75% of last night sounded like. It was people screaming over each other. You couldn't understand a single word that anybody was saying because the moderator and multiple candidates were all talking at the exact same time. And it just felt so produced for TV fake fighting. It was the weirdest vibe that could have possibly existed up on that stage. And I found it really distracting, to be honest with you, and really a turnoff for every single one of these candidates.
Let's have out their record. Let's have a policy debate. Yeah. And the right answer is we need to declare independence from China.
All night. All night.
Haley, you mentioned me in the
Smile.
question.
They just keep putting it back in. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. And I love our governor. I live in Florida now. I love Ron DeSantis. I can't with the smile. Like, we've got to get a human behavior coach in to help these candidates before these debates because they seem so deeply uncomfortable standing up on this stage.
We think about the fact that Vivek just said we were all good people, and I appreciate that because last debate he said we were all bought and paid for.
Haley, you mentioned me in the question. I just want
Some of us aren't paid for. The bottom line is when you say bought and paid for.
Thank you for speaking while I'm interrupting.
Literally.
While I'm speaking.
Well, you said bought and paid for.
If I may,
All night. All night.
I favor ending birthright citizenship.
That was a huge standout moment last night. Vivek Ramaswamy said that he was in favor of ending birthright citizenship for children of illegal immigrants, that in order to be naturalized into the United States, just like any other immigrant, you would have to pass the citizenship test. That probably will never come to fruition, even if he is elected president of the United States, because it's just such a nuanced political issue. But I have to say, he said two things last night, three things, I guess, if you include TikTok, that really did stand out to me as someone willing to bring our country forward and do uncomfortable things or try to suggest politically impossible things in order to try to bring the conservative side of things forward into the future. The first being, I'm glad he defended TikTok and social media as a means to communicate with people. The second was this birthright citizenship comment. I think that was a really forward-thinking way to handle the immigration crisis. Every single other answer that was provided by all of the candidates or even asked by the moderators of the debate handled so many different sides of the immigration issue, but nobody really had a solution for how we can prevent this from taking over the United States population moving forward. I thought ending birthright citizenship seems like a really fair and reasonable way to try to disincentivize people from coming here just for birth tourism and to give birth. I thought that was a really interesting concept. It didn't get nearly enough airtime, but I did appreciate that idea.
I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say.
That was in regards to the TikTok comment. Nikki Haley interrupted Vivek Ramaswamy and said, I feel a little bit dumber every time you say certain things. That was regarding reaching the next generation on social media. She came across pretty combative to me yesterday. Whereas a few weeks ago in Wisconsin, I felt like she could rise above the group of men screaming at each other. She had that comment quoting Margaret Thatcher saying, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. That came across incredibly effectively in Milwaukee. But for whatever reason, maybe it was advice that she received, maybe it was focus groups or her own campaign telling her she needed to go more on the attack. She came across extremely combative and not as level-headed to me last night compared to a few weeks ago.
Black families survived slavery. We survived poll taxes and literacy tests. We survived discrimination being woven into the laws of our country. What was hard to survive was Johnson's Great Society.
Haley, you mentioned me.
How many times do you think they're going to put this back in there? It's just so good.
Grandstand.
The next question is for Governor DeSantis.
All night. All night.
Here's how we get it done in Washington. We must find a way.
Can we please respect?
Do you even hear anything that they're saying? I couldn't. Multiple times I was sitting there texting my fiance, what did they just say? Like I missed that.
The time.
Haley, you mentioned me in the question. I just want
Governor, why is your record in Florida on insurance worse than the national average?
Our state's a dynamic state. We've got a lot of folks that come. Of course, we've had a population.
To be fair, in defense of this answer, I thought he gave a really great answer about why insurance companies are very much struggling in Florida or even pulling out of Florida. I just moved here in March, so I had no realm of concept for what that was supposed to look like on a practical side of things. If you live here, you will know Florida is a very different place to live than most other places to live. There are constantly natural disasters happening. The wildlife population is quite different in dealing with the wildlife-human interactions in Florida than anywhere else in the country. For example, they found a massive alligator in a canal holding a dead human body in his mouth the other day. So like the Florida is kind of like a weird fever dream version of what it's like to live everywhere else. Obviously, insurance companies are going to operate differently in the state of Florida than any other place to live. So I thought that question was a little bit unfair.
There's one person on this.
This is infuriating because TikTok is one of the most dangerous social media apps that we could have.
And this is where she lost me last night. Again, you guys know where I stand on this. I've explained my point of view and my perspective on this a million different times. This is just objectively not true. It is all talking points that have been fed to various politicians, various candidates, and into various pieces of legislation from one particular lobbying firm, consulting firm in Washington, D.C. at the bequest of Meta to be planting all of these talking points and these stories. There is not a shred of evidence of any of these claims, and it just goes to show me that it's really shallow when you buy into these talking points because your campaign is being advised to do so by a lobbying firm rather than being logically able to think for yourself about how to reach the next generation of voters.
And what you've got, I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say because I can't believe here you've got a TikTok situation. What they're doing is...
So again, I think she came across really combative, a little bit more angry last night, and that particular answer very, very much got under my skin. Ultimately, Vivek had one other standout moment for me. The three that I mentioned were the TikTok commentary, his commentary on ending birthright citizenship, and the final being he was very clear that we have to address the transgender and transitioning issue with children in America as what it is. It is a mental health disorder, and as Generation Z, this next generation, and Alpha, who comes after us, is struggling with the greatest mental health crisis the world has ever seen on a generational level, we have to be willing to call this what it is. He was the only candidate willing to say that up on that debate stage, and just goes to show that he is a little bit more culturally in tune with what the average person is going through culturally in our country today. It's obvious to me for the reason why. It's because he himself is a millennial, right? We're talking about a very different generational perspective and point of view on what day-to-day life is like in our country. But even Vivek has moments where there are things just a little bit out of the ordinary and out of touch culturally, like, for example, trying to raise the voting age to 25. If he was able to let go of that, I think we would be able to have a much different conversation. But I digress, different conversation for another time. The biggest takeaway that I had watching last night, other than the scripted political theater, fake outrage and hostility thing, it just felt so outrageous that it couldn't possibly be true, was that at least one point, if not the entire time that I was watching the potential next president of the United States standing up on that stage talk, I noticed a massive cultural disconnect between with what our politicians are wanting to accomplish in this country and what ordinary people are going through and experiencing living in 2024 America. I say it all the time, and I will keep saying it until I am blue in the face and more people are aware of what's going on. We live in the upside down. In the 2020s, in a post-COVID reality, we have arrived in a post-truth, postmodern society. We do not live in a time where most of these people originally came into positions of political power, and we have to be willing to go where culture is today if we are serious about changing it from the inside out. I feel like I'm watching debates and or campaigns from the early 2000s or 1990s. And it's hard to imagine why, when many of these people have been involved in politics longer than I have been alive. But like Donald Trump was able to come into the fold in 2016 and totally disrupt the system because he was aware of what was happening in a new reality for the average person. person in 2016. I really think we desperately need someone anywhere in politics, by the way, because we're not seeing this on the left either, who is aware of the fact that we live in a different world today in 2023 going into 2024 than we did in 2016, or certainly in the early 2000s, or certainly in the 1990s. We demand a new perspective and a new point of view and a new generation of leadership because we need someone in the driver's seat of the most powerful country in the history of the world, arguably not so much anymore, who understands what our culture is going through, who understands how families are struggling, who understands what high schoolers are having to deal with, like Nintendo Fan in our chat, with all gender bathrooms being introduced on your high school campus, who understands that we are going through a mental health crisis in our country that desperately requires cultural leadership just as much as political leadership on taxes and foreign policy, who understands that this is how we communicate, that this is how we get information out there on platforms like TikTok or any of the platforms we are streaming on right now, like Rumble and YouTube and Getter and Locals and Facebook and certainly Instagram as well. Someone who is willing to say what needs to be said, to courageously and unapologetically stand for your values, even if you might poll lower, even if you think it might hurt your campaign to be honest about where you are coming from, to just be authentic and honest. And to be totally transparent with you, I'm struggling to see that at least 100% of the time in any individual candidate. Any single one who was on that debate stage or not, in either side of the political spectrum today going into 2024. I think we really are at a tipping point in American politics, and I'm fascinated to see where this goes moving forward because I think we are very much entering unprecedented territory in so many different ways. But don't take my word for it. We are going to now welcome in a few of my friends. One's a millennial, one's a Gen Zer, to talk about our generational perspective and takeaways from what happened at the debate last night. We're going to be joined by Jobob Telefi. If you guys have been around for a while, you will know Jobob is a very long-time friend of the stream, long-time dear friend of myself and my fiance, and who also just recently became a dad, which is super exciting. He's also a fellow TPUSA contributor with me and is traveling the country right now on a live event stand-up comedy tour. He is so funny and could not recommend going to check him out when he's in your city next, as well as Chrissy Clark. This is her first time on the stream, I believe, who is the host of The Reaction with Daily Caller. She used to do a lot of work with the Daily Wire, and we've been friends on social media for quite some time. Very wonderful two people that I'm so excited to be welcoming into our conversation today. So all of that without further ado, please join me in welcoming both Jobob and Chrissy for our take on what happened last night at the presidential debate. Jobob and Chrissy, thank you so much for joining us on the stream. If you guys have been watching for a while, Jobob is an old friend of the stream. You've been on many, many times, and you're a new dad, which is the best news ever. Dibs on holding your baby through all of AmFest in a few weeks. Chrissy, you are new to the stream, but I have been such a huge fan of all of your work and everything you've been doing for a long time. Been such a pleasure becoming better friends over this last year or so, and I think this is going to be a great conversation. So thank you both for joining us.
Oh my gosh, of course. I'm pumped. I'm like, after watching last night, I don't know about you guys, but when I watch these debates, I'm like, oh, snooze fest. And then after, I'm like, wait, this was actually like good fighting moments, like good recap material. I actually really...
I love it. I was actually at the debate in Wisconsin a few months ago, and I see them on TV all the time, but I'd never been to one in person. And it was crazy sitting in the audience listening to everybody chant, fight, 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 or like really encourage these people to go at each other's throats. It's basically my Super Bowl. I love it. It's fantastic.
I am excited to chuck a bomb into this whole thing and say I think we need to get rid of debates entirely. It's stupid. I hate it. And the Republican Party should be ashamed of themselves.
All right, Jobob. Here we go. Let's just start strong. Why should they be ashamed of themselves? Jump in.
So, okay, all right. So, and feel free to push back on any of this because I haven't really thought it entirely through. I've just been anecdotally thinking to myself during the debate, watching it. And the biggest problem I have with the debates is the fact that the Republican Party allows questions to be asked from the liberal point of view. Most notably, I think in Wisconsin, the first debate, they had some kid come on and talk, what are you going to do about climate change? And
that was bought in by the ACC.
I
know it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a little
totally.
But why do they allow, like, okay, so fast to this debate, they talking about migrants, like, well, what are we going to do about that? How are we going to provide for the illegal immigrants in this country? When, like, that's not a Republican view. That's not a conservative view. Why is the question being asked?
How do you ask questions for the independent though, Jobob? Like, how do you ask a question for the independents, but also pander to your GOP audience? It's like, it's kind of a tough thing, and I think they failed last night, but they did a good job in the first debate. Yeah, no.
I mean, I'm not. I think debates are just generally stupid, just because it's an out of date format. Like, I'd much rather have those guys like sit on a podcast with no moderator, no questions, and just talk.
Okay,
for
so
like
I actually would
several
totally
hours.
agree with that. And last night, I just kept thinking to myself, for whatever reason, and this is the best way that I can phrase this in the most professional, adequate way, it was just a shit show, especially even compared to the last debate. I was just floored at the lack of moderation, the lack of ability to even answer any question provided to you. Dana Perino did a phenomenal job and looked absolutely stunning, as a side note, but did a phenomenal job making sure people were trying to answer the questions. But the other two moderators couldn't even stop people from talking over each other. They couldn't make sure there was any sort of conversation control. I was thinking the same thing last night, Jobob, that I kind of wish this was like a roundtable podcast where everybody was sitting down having an honest conversation about all of the things that they believed in, because even as soon as you start to have an honest conversation in these debates, it just turns into screaming at each other and everybody laughs and jeers from the audience, and then you can't even hear what they say.
You know, and
Isabel, also, oh, go ahead, Jobob.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead. Go for it.
No, I was just gonna say, like, the questions, like, yes, I think Dana did a great job. I actually did some questions before, and when she was talking about her debate prep on Fox, she was actively saying she wanted to ask questions that would really help people who were just trying to decide between each candidate to really narrow in on a candidate. And then I don't think any of her questions actually really, for instance, she was saying on a show, and I messaged her, I was like, please ask this. She's like, Gen Z is priced out of the housing market right now. Like, we cannot get a home. We followed all the rules, and yet here we are renting into our early 30s, right? Mm-hmm. And even when we do buy property, it's not in desirable locations. It's in up and coming areas that are crime ridden. It's an awful state to be in. And we kind of feel like we've been lied to time and time again by the government, people saying, oh, like, just follow the rules and you'll be able to buy a house. Like, I'm 26. I can't buy a house in this market. Absolutely not. And like, where was that question last night? Where were questions that were actually going to show the separation between each candidate? Most questions were like, gotcha questions. Tim Scott, tell me why you hate Nikki Haley. What?
You know, wow, this is more nuanced. I appreciate the discussion with the information there that's so pinpointed on things that actually matter. I will go back to the course of to your point earlier about, well, what are we doing about independence, or how are we going to sway independence? The Republican Party shouldn't effing care about independence right now, because this is a Republican primary. I can't vote as an independent in the Republican primary. I can, interestingly enough, in California in the Democratic primary. So I vote for the worst candidate on the Democrat side every single time. But to the point of like actually deciding who a Republican candidate is going to be, none of this helps. Like, I don't think any of this helps. And sorry to continue back to my bomb chucking, but the fact that we are stuck in an antiquated way of deciding who the candidate is a barrier to getting to the actual questions like you were asking. I would be fascinated to know what the Republican candidates think about Gen Z buying houses and property values and wages and all that sort of stuff. But we can never get there because everybody's trying to get the zinger. Donald Duck that's what we're going to call him. God. Like, none of this matters. Like, we're avoiding actual conversations because we're stuck in an old way of TV format. And that's what I think is killing the Republican Party.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, Jobob, because I think this brings up a great position for us to start this conversation point by point. There was one moment at the debate last night that just enraged me, and I'm sure if you know me and you listen to a lot of my content, you can pinpoint exactly when this happened during the debate. There was a question asked to Vivek Ramaswamy about TikTok and his unbelievable, audacious decision to hang out with one of the Paul brothers and make content on TikTok and make sure that he was meeting with people in high positions of power at TikTok to try to get political messaging out to the next generation. And Nikki Haley was really upset by this question in particular. Most of the candidates in their post-debate conversations and media hits decided to say something really negative about TikTok, but I think it applies generally to social media at large. You're right. These conversations and almost the campaigns at large, from my perspective, from almost every single candidate, seem to be tailored towards an outdated era, whether that's an outdated era of television, an outdated era of policy talking points, an outdated era of stupid insults like Donald Duck, which I'm sure made Chris Christie feel really proud and good with himself, but was unbelievably cringeworthy for the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Is there a candidate that's sticking out to either one of you that is starting to break free from this outdated time period and way of communicating? Or do you just think the party at large is so stuck in this is what worked last time or this is what worked 10 years ago that we have to keep rinsing and repeating?
Yeah, I think two-pronged. One, on the TikTok debate thing that you were saying, I can't stand the fact that the GOP was sitting there like, oh, I hate TikTok, like a bunch of grandpas, while their entire thing was being sponsored by TikTok commercials. I don't know why it was making me laugh so hard, or if you guys got those commercials as well, but everything was like, you know, my small business is better because I was able to utilize TikTok. That was essentially the commercial. And then it's like, well, we're going to shut down TikTok. Okay, boomer, chill. Second, yes, I think Vivek does stand out to me. Now, he really irritates me. I don't know how to describe it. He's one of those people where I'd like have to hold my breath to vote for him, but like, I get it. I think what DeSantis, what Haley, what they do is they kind of want to put the cat back in the bag, and they have to understand that the cat's out of the bag now. Okay. It happened with, I believe it was Nixon and JFK, right? Am I right on that? No, Nixon and someone else. Those debates when they initially were brought, right? Am I right with saying
It was
JFK?
JFK. Yeah, it is JFK.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So they initially did those. Nixon was sweaty. JFK was hot as hell. And we were watching that, and it was like, great. You know, we could really see the candidates for who, and that was a level that was set. And now we're at a next level. We expect our Republican politicians to be a little out of the normal. They have to hit that Trumpian level of entertaining. Mm-hmm. And so DeSantis and Nikki Haley, they keep trying to go to the policy message. And I'm like, you guys, I get it. Like, I'm here for it. As, you know, a conservative, I want to hear it. But you're not going to win by not accepting that the cat is out of the bag. Have to hit a certain threshold of entertainment value.
But isn't that the problem? Like, I kind of think that, so the way I would look at that and answer,
I just accept that it's out of the bag.
No, yeah, you're right. And I look at that stage, and this may irritate some people, but I don't see somebody on that stage that I wouldn't ultimately vote for if they got the nomination. Like, I would vote for any of those candidates over literally anybody on the Yeah, you would vote for Joe Biden over Chris Christie?
No,
again,
I would abstain from somebody else in, to be honest, though.
Isabel's dog.
Yeah, right. Liberty, which honestly may do a better job at running the country.
But she would be far.
She would.
But I guess I wonder how you solve that problem, because in the past, leading up to, I don't know, the internet generation, the party would have a platform, and then the vote in terms of the primaries would be who can best represent this platform and win the election. Nowadays, it's the candidate that ends up making it through the primary effectively sets the party platform, which is like, again, I don't know if there's a way of avoiding that, but I think it kind of addresses the root problem is the American people don't care, and we're just going after personality. So in a way, I totally understand that you have to lean into the TikToks of the world, and you can't be a crotchety old Nikki Haley, Tim Scott looking at those dumb Gen Zers. But at the same time, I think if you can solve two problems at once, it has to be addressed that, like, that is a stupid way to run the country. Like, you're right. That is how we're doing it right now. But I don't have a solution of getting back.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Jobob, but what you're saying is generally this is a failure of the party more than it is failures of candidates.
Oh,
because
dude, the party itself, the fact that they don't coordinate with Fox News on what questions get asked, like, that's, I mean, like, how this is the Republican Party and just political parties as a whole are private institutions. They can do whatever they want. And obviously they have to answer to their constituents and their voters who vote for their particular party, but they don't have to subject the candidates to just having a suicide bomb being exploded in the middle of them, i.e. a debate like this. Like, that I think is where my frustration is that, like, at the end of the day, you're right. The attention is how you win the presidential nomination. But at the same time, I don't think that's good, is I think what I'm ultimately saying.
So with regard to specifically the debate last night, I'm really curious. I think out of Milwaukee, there was probably two pretty standout performances we saw from both Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy. Arguably, both of their polling went through the roof out of that debate, and they were expected to kind of be the standout voices again last night. As you were watching the debate, was there anyone that really pleasantly surprised you? Was there anything that really let you down? What were your key takeaways?
First, I didn't know how much Tim Scott's teeth bother me. That was my first takeaway when I saw them. I was like, oh my gosh, is that really mean? I was like, he looks like a beaver kind of, but that I just didn't realize. But he also pleasantly surprised me. He had some good substance. I was happy with Tim Scott. Vivek did exact same performance he did last time, but he clearly had listened to the focus group, him saying, I'm not trying to be a know-it-all. Okay, like who in your focus group told you that, Vivek? I don't know who it was, but someone told it to you. Ron did the same performance. He didn't do any worse. He didn't do any better. And Nikki Haley came across as a little bit of a bully. She kind of saw that she saw an uptick when she attacked Vivek last time, but she got frustrated instead of pointed in her attacks. And so I thought it was kind of more of an L, more of a step down than her previous performance. No one stuck out. The only winner I've personally dubbed Ann Coulter to be the winner of this debate, because if you guys missed her tweets last night, were incredible.
Jobob, what about you?
All right. Just to offer the contrarian opinion, the standout person that sticks out in my memory, Doug Burgum of the campaign of who
Doug.
The hell is Doug Burgum? No, I really only say that because if you're looking at this as who did I know about before the debate versus who did I know about after the debate, I think Doug Burgum is the one that I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that guy. I forgot he exists. I still demand that Aisha Hutchinson be on the stage, but that's a different topic. But to your point, I think you're right. Nikki Haley she could have done without going after Vivek. Like, I don't know what the point of that really was. It kind of made her look mean, which, just not the best look for her. Somebody, I forget who tweeted this, but I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is like spot on. Somebody told Ron DeSantis he needed to smile the entire time. And I think that he translated that as, well, I will look personable if I smile the entire time. If you watch the thing, every single second of him is like just this
creepy smile. Have you seen all of the memes that have come out from Wisconsin about this smile of like,
dude, this is what I want to be. What I ultimately want to be career-wise, professionally, is one, a Division II women's basketball coach, but two, a political coach of just like being comfortable.
Yeah.
Like
yes.
there's Republicans are so freaking bad at like being cool. Vivek is like the closest one there, but even he has some like, all right, you know that you're really smart and a tech billionaire. Like we get it, dude.
Yeah.
But like somebody, Ron DeSantis needs a style coach.
Yeah.
And whatever he's doing to try and crush that bad part of him that he can't figure out, the personability part, is just not working. And that's what stood out to me among, other than Nikki Haley kind of being mean and Tim Scott's teeth.
Okay, for me, it was Mike Pence breathing. It's bothered me before, but last night was just particularly bad.
It was so bad.
I don't know where all of these little things come from that bother people so much, and we laugh about them, but like, to your point, Jobob, I actually do think it really matters. Like, being able to sell your agenda, being able to sell your policies, and being able to captivate charismatically a voter base really does come from your attitude, how you're standing, your body language, how you come across, not just through a television screen, but in person. And you're right, there seems to be, I said this after Wisconsin, but this reversion with everybody on the stage to like pre-Donald Trump debate era, where everybody feels so stiff, everything feels really scripted. Every single time you answer a question, you have to get in, and as your next president of the United States, I will do this. And it just felt so staged, for lack of a better term, without anybody feeling relaxed, anyone feeling comfortable, anyone that really stood out to me being like, that is presidential material. And I do think there are some key feedback moments that some candidates have taken, probably from focus groups or coaches or whatever, but those things really do matter as we get closer and closer to 2024. On that note, let's switch gears a little bit. Because I think we really saw a repeat performance from most of the people. I do agree Nikki Haley did come across a little bit more combative yesterday, and I'm not sure why that decision was made or if it even was intentional. But as Vivek Ramaswamy took feedback in the opposite direction, saying all of these people up here are really good people, even though we might disagree. Yeah. They're all great people, which is a very steep departure from what happened last week, last debate. What I did see a really stark change on was the candidates on this stage going after Donald Trump almost unilaterally. Mm-hmm. So talking about the elephant not in the room, how do you feel as a conservative American, as someone that has supported Donald Trump in the past, with his non-presence at these debates, and do you think it's influencing the performance of the other candidates? Chrissy, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I got to be upfront about where my politics are so that you can kind of gauge where to agree and disagree with me. So voted for Trump in 2016. 2020, I was living in DC, and I'm just one of those people that really believes you have to earn my vote. Like, I don't just give it to you because you have an R or a D next to your name. So I voted for my roommate, Shelby, in the 2020 debate, election. Not that it mattered. I lived in DC. And so my vote is very much up for grabs. I'm registered independent, but you have to register in either party when you ticket. Often pick the Republican Party. I won't deny it. So I'm up for grabs when it comes to this. And I will say, Donald Trump does himself a favor for people like me that it's like, oh, I don't really want to vote for him. I'd rather vote for a DeSantis or a Haley than a Trump. He does himself a service by not being there. As soon as he gets mean and he lies about DeSantis's record or he gets grumpy and crotchety, I'm like, get this guy off the stage. I don't want to hear him anymore. And that's why when I was comparing the Milwaukee debate, I loved Trump because I got to watch DeSantis and Vivek go at it and do their thing, and it was great. But then I got to watch Trump just be normal, happy, nice self in an interview with Tucker Carlson. And he came across as the winner to me because he was nice. But as soon as you put him in a combative position like that, I'm sure I would have been like, I love how funny he is, but I don't like him as a presidential candidate. I'm sure that's exactly what would have happened. So to me, he does himself a massive service to independent/conservative people that are not never Trump, but not super pro-Trump.
It would be political malpractice to put Donald Trump on that stage if you're his team. Like he's ahead by so much. To Chrissy's point, you only can have bad things happen to you. There's no reason why he would be on there. And the whole idea of like the hitting him for not being there, oh, you're ducking your responsibility. Like, I don't know who that works on, but just in general as a whole, if you're looking at politics as a horse race and the one horse is leading by 40 lengths, like the jockey's not going to do a handstand on the horse for no apparent reason to try and win style points. So like in the same reason, like he's ahead by so much in so many of the important states that like if his campaign were to let him go on stage, I would question him and his campaign's decision making. Like that's how bad of a decision it would be.
See, I am one of those people that's frustrated he's not there. And I am a diehard Trump person. I have been for a really long time. Like you, Chrissy, this election, I've said repeatedly, I've made zero decisions. My vote is up for grabs. You have to earn it. And honestly, I don't really feel earned by any of the candidates at this point. So we'll see what happens in the next several months. But it's been really frustrating for me seeing what's happening on the left and our unilateral criticism as a country saying that having no debates and refusing to put your front runner on a stage to answer questions about their record is wrong, that's what we do in totalitarian countries where elections are not valid, not in a free country of the United States of America. How can we not hold ourselves to the same standard of that while we're simultaneously chastising the other side for doing it?
But that's up to the voters. Like that's up to the voters to decide. Like if the voters weren't giving him such a massive lead, he would be forced to go onto the debate stage. But like he's up 30 points in like the closest poll and up like 60 in some of the more outliers. So like him being on stage again, from a campaign perspective, whether or not I want to see him, I personally want to see him on the stage, but that's just for my own entertainment value. But from a from a consultant standpoint, you would have to be crazy to put that guy on the stage,
Right.
because the only thing that could happen is closing the gap. And so in the reality, I totally understand your point. It's the voters that are, I guess, I don't even want to say to blame, but they're the reason why Trump isn't on the stage, because he has such a massive lead. If it was closer, he would have to be up there.
Okay, so let's play a theoretical what if then, and I think it's a pretty valid what if to play as we get closer to the election cycle. Let's assume something happens that Donald Trump cannot run for president anymore for whatever reason. Maybe that's part of a sentence that continues to be doled out like cards at a poker table at this point. It's just always piling on. Maybe something happens because of his age. We're playing this exact same game with the left right now. We have absolutely no idea what could happen between now and November of 2024. Is this still looking to you like a debate between potential VP candidates with everybody else up on that stage? Or do you think there is someone who is starting to make it obvious and pull ahead to you that could be a valid option for the Republican Party to put forward?
I just don't I think you would have to start from scratch, because everyone's being viewed through this lens of Donald, the VP candidate. And come on, Ron DeSantis is not going to be his VP candidate. It's obviously going to be no one that's on that stage. It's going to be Carrie, or it's going to be Chrissy Noem. I think that's a given. I don't think it's anybody on that stage. So I actually don't even see this as a VP or a number 2 contestant or anything like that. I see this as them getting their prep to do this for 28. So I think you have to start from scratch. I don't see any of them working.
Interesting. I think Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley, those are 2 candidates I think that are serious about actually wanting to be president. Maybe Tim Scott in there. But I wouldn't mind either one of them. In terms of the vice presidential pick, you got to go with somebody prominent in a swing state. I don't think Chrissy Noem, South Dakota or North Dakota, whatever Dakota,
not Doug's state.
Yeah. He's got that on lock. So I can see either Nikki Haley or DeSantis, and then a close third Tim Scott, if Trump was all of a sudden out of the picture. I think that
Donald Trump, let's keep Isabel's hypothetical. Donald Trump is somehow in prison. You don't gonna have lackeys coming in there speaking for him, saying don't ever vote for DeSanctimonious. So that's gonna we have to talk about Trump is always going to be a factor for part of the base. Yeah. So are Nikki Haley and DeSantis really going to be able to galvanize that vote? I don't know, because he hates them both.
Well, I think the cataclysmic event is having to do with his age more than his prison sentence. If he's in prison, I still think he gets the nomination. I still think he wins. Yeah. So that's what I think. I mean, if that is the scenario, then I still think Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis would probably be fine. But yeah, even if he's in prison, which he wouldn't be in prison, it would be like a house arrest sort of thing, so that they would have Secret Service there, in which case he can definitely still run for president and probably still win, which would be hilarious. Yeah, it would be hilarious. But I don't know. I think like I said earlier, I don't have a problem with any of them that were up on that stage that isn't on the more liberal side of thinking. So I don't know. I like ideas and voting for policy than I like people, but unfortunately we're in a we vote for the person type of standpoint, which is
we are, especially because the big open-ended part of that question of the what if also has to do with who can beat the left. And I am still very much on
literally anyone.
That we do not know the full picture of what the 2024 election is going to look like. I fundamentally believe that Joe Biden will not be running for president for whatever reason. Really? I do think a cataclysmic event of some sort is probably going to happen. I've said for a year and a half now, Jobob, and everybody used to laugh at us, but now they're all coming around that it would probably look like a Michelle Obama, Gavin Newsom ticket if some horrible thing were to happen. And I still stand by that. I find it hilarious now everyone is coming around to that way of
Gavin Newsom is running.
A year and a half
I can
ago,
tell you
said I was crazy.
Gavin Newsom is running for president. Like that.
Correct.
I don't know why. I've
As
been
is
saying
Michelle
this, and
Obama. They are rolling out the Obamas
she
on
actually?
every single late night comedy
just
show,
don't
on every
get it.
lifestyle podcast. Everything they
Interesting.
talk about is positioning them as America's first family. Again, the girls grew up and they came over and we made charcuterie boards. And similarly, Gavin Newsom is rolling out policy agenda after policy agenda after policy agenda. If you're looking at politics as the game of 4D chess, like all of us love to do because this is just what we like to do for fun, it is so incredibly obvious to me that both of these individuals are being positioned for something, whether or not there's been a formal announcement or any steep departure from the plan for 2024. They at least have something in their back pocket. And to be totally transparent with you, I don't think anyone, including any front runner that we might have for the Republican Party today, would beat a Michelle Obama, Gavin Newsom ticket.
Nope.
I just don't.
Nope. I completely
I don't know.
agree.
When you throw Michelle Obama in there, that's different thing.
All
Yeah,
right, well,
Michelle
tell us
Obama
what you
is
think then.
different. Go ahead, Jobob.
Oh, I think Gavin's going to be at the top of the ticket. I think that's just Gavin Newsom is running for president. He will be the nominee of the Democratic Party. Like, I don't think it's really even. It's crazy that we're having a discussion of whether or not Gavin is going to run. People are like, well, he said he's not going to run. Yeah, so did Barack Obama in 2008 or 2008. Like, he's like, oh, I don't feel like running. And then he's like, I'm going to run. And people are like, you said you weren't going to run. He's like, yeah, I changed my mind.
Yep.
Gavin is running, like, from firsthand knowledge of the situation. He is running. And so with that, I think, you got to find a person that can highlight the differences between California and the rest of the states. And probably the person who can do that most effectively is Ron DeSantis. So I'm actually super curious what this DeSantis-Newsom debate is going to be like in November. Gavin is really, really slick. He's doing this. He's doing something that politicians have never done before. And like, I'm taking responsibility. It looks like a bad thing, but we're going to get the hang of it, which I think is freaking hilarious. He's talking as if his party hasn't been in control of the state for the last 40 years. His party doesn't have a supermajority, and he hasn't been running the state for 6 years. He's talking like an incoming governor of the other party who's just like, things are crazy and we got to get down to work and fix it. Dude, you've been doing that job for 20 years. That's shit. Anyways, so Gavin Newsom's running for president. We got to figure out who can beat him.
And honestly, I don't know that we have that person, because as much as I hate to see it, if you scroll through TikTok or you scroll through Instagram and you see clips of Gavin Newsom or news stories, almost every single comment from both millennials and Gen Zers alike worship the man almost as much as they worship Michelle Obama. And I cannot for the life of me figure out how that's possible. Jobob, you live in California, so I think you should know more than anyone how it's possible at all that he's continuing to trick people, but we still see it every single election cycle in California. I think on both sides, but particularly the left, there's just so much that could happen between now and November. We're being so preemptive in this is my candidate, this is my candidate. I think we just don't even really know what the full picture is even going to look like yet.
Yeah, have you heard this? That people think Gretchen Whitmer is going to end up the Democratic nomination?
Ugh, no.
That is if the FBI doesn't kill her first.
Jobob, we have FBI agents already. Come on, man. Let's bring it back.
Oh my gosh. So I've heard this theory about how Michelle Obama, yes, they want to run the red carpet for her, but she's not interested in politics, or so she says. So she's not actually going to run. They're going to have Gavin Newsom run versus Kamala, and it's really just going to be Gavin pandering to this whole blue dog Democrat and Kamala pandering to the woke and no one middle, and then Gretchen Whitmer is going to come out as this like magical, amazing person who can garner a swing state like Michigan, which is already blue, by the way. They think it's like some magical win, and I will say she's a better candidate than people give her credit for being, because I went to college in Michigan. I lived through the beginning on your, and I still have friends and family in Michigan now. Let me just say, the fact that she was able to galvanize that state after literally people left, right, and center hated that woman's guts during COVID, she's got something that we shouldn't sleep on. That's all I'll say.
Interesting. I also think there's some dirt that'll come to the forefront on Mr. Newsom that is going to be difficult for him to avoid. I'm curious. Do both of you know like the crazy sex scandal past of Gavin Newsom? Like, you're
yeah. I mean,
okay.
to be honest,
Well,
I prefer to spend my evenings, reading a book or watching TV instead of thinking about Gavin Newsom's sex life, but that's just me.
Well, it's just I'm just living in California. You kind of grow up knowing this, and I don't think this is tenable on a national scale. But I'm curious if people in other states who don't have an intimate knowledge of California politics are aware. Like, you guys know that Gavin Newsom was married to Kimberly Guilfoyle for a while.
Yes,
like
yes.
that's like a
come
known
on,
thing.
Donald Trump and that. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we can talk about like her by the P word, and people are like, yeah, let's vote for him. Like, we can. I don't care what Gavin Newsom's sex life is. Honestly, I know Mike Pence's sex life is either. Care about how his cringy comment about like, oh, I've been sleeping with a teacher for 38 years. Ew, don't need to know that. Thanks.
I do think there's a point to going back to what you had said. Like, I do think there's some stuff that'll come out about Gavin when he's running for president that is going to be very, very difficult to get through. And I think the people know the tip of the iceberg at this point. And so maybe you have Gretchen just come in out of nowhere. I also feel like Eric Adams is. I think we lost Chrissy. I think Eric Adams is going to try and make a play for the presidency too. I don't know about this cycle, but definitely in 2028. All
right, hang on 2 seconds. I'm gonna just move you.
Eric Adams has also called himself the future of the Democratic Party, which is like a bold thing to say about yourself. Like, I think you let other people say that about
when you're
you.
rolling out RoboCop instead of actually like doing anything meaningful for your city. I don't know. Look, I think if we can have a guy go on the record and say that he had sex with Barack Obama and everyone is still obsessed with the Obamas, like anything is possible. I don't really think any scandal is gonna determine one way or another, but I do think that we don't really know who the candidate for the Democrat Party actually is. Okay, so Jobob, as we hopefully get Chrissy back up and going here, tell me what you are looking for come the beginning of November in Miami for the next debate. Is there anything that a particular candidate could tell you that would be your person? That would be your guy, you're rallying behind him, and that would solidify who your vote goes to?
Short answer, no, there is not. But you know what? I've always had this like fantasy of like a candidate running of just like the nonchalant, disengaged candidate, like a candidate on the debate stage that says, look, I do not want this job. It sounds terrible. It sounds crazy, but what other option do we have? So I guess maybe that, like, if Vivek flipped the script and was like, look, being president sounds like it sucks. And it does sound like it sucks. And he were to say that and be like, I don't want it, but if you feel like America needs a CEO at the helm of the United States government, then fine, vote for me. Then that would really pull me his way. But in terms of like an actual policy thing that somebody could say, I don't think that there's anything that anybody's going to say that is going to change anybody's mind, really. Like, oh, maybe Nikki Haley will tick up another 3 points in rural Idaho. But, other than that.
Hey, now. Don't be hating on rural Idaho.
Not hating on rural Idaho. I'm just saying it's insignificant. Just kidding.
Rude, but okay. I'm sorry. Not okay.
As a person... Please buy my comedy tickets. We're going to rural Idaho in the middle of November. So
where are you going? Actually, I'm super curious.
We're going to Twin Falls, Idaho, which is about 2 hours east of Boise. Yeah, so
well, I was born in Boise, and I grew up in North Rural Idaho.
Really?
Yeah, for a few years.
Like where? Like Coeur
d'Alene
d'Alene area? Oh, okay. So I'm putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable then. Coeur d'Alene, not Coeur d'Alene.
That's how you say it.
Oh.
Anyway, all of that to be said, I agree. I think for me, I had the same reaction last night that I had in Milwaukee, and it was just every other answer for most of the people that were surprising me in the best ways. I was like hooked, leaning forward. Yes, you've got me. You've got my vote. And then the next answer, I was like, WTF did you just say? I cannot believe that came out of your mouth. How are you that politically unaware of what's going on in our country? And it's just really frustrating to me to feel how out of touch most of these candidates are. Chrissy, we're getting you back on in just a second, I promise. But I just don't know that there is an awareness at the party level, and I would agree with your assessment there, Jobob, that a lot of this is the party's problem, about how to capture the next generation and our interest and what we are going through every single day. Like, sure, it's nice for you to tell me exactly what your foreign policy plan might be for how to handle the next Middle East peace talks. It's nice for you to tell me exactly how you want to handle the tax policy in this country, or what exactly your philosophy is on drilling and fracking and all these things. Those are important, but I feel like there is this massive generational cultural gap of unawareness with everybody currently in positions of political power and everybody else living in America. And I think the left has so much more of a stronghold in that area that the right has no idea how to capture.
Can I don't know if I've like mentioned this, and I'll try and keep this brief, but like the Barack Obama's entrance into the 2008 DNC nomination, where he got the nomination, got me into politics in much more of a surfacey level. If you I watch that footage once every 6 months. It is freaking beautiful. Like, again, regardless of what you think of the guy's policy, they play this like tear-jerking video, and then it goes to the sky cam and it swirls around as he's walking out on the stage. Everybody's cheering. It cuts to Michelle Obama, who just looks so proud. There's people crying. It's unbelievable from a cinematic perspective. And if you go back as early as 2000 or as late as 2016, Donald Trump's entrance into the Republican National Convention is one shot of his, like a bust shot of him. And I'm like, this is not motivating. And so to your point of like, the party needs to figure out how to pull people in by the heartstrings. As much as I hate that and would rather vote on strictly policy, that's a huge component that needs to get fixed in conservative politics. And I don't think we're doing anything to get closer to that, like, feeling. People vote on how they feel, not what they know. And Republicans are not doing a good job at making people feel like they have like any sort of connection to them in a way that Democrats have been doing since, the 80s.
I feel like I'm in church. Can I get an amen, Jobob? This is literally what I've been talking about for weeks on my live stream. And it's so frustrating that so many people, including a lot of the people we work with in this realm of content creation and live streaming and all that, are just so unaware of that. Chrissy, you're back. Thank God we got you back. But I want to ask both of you in our last couple of minutes here, if you had a message for the Republican Party, you're both registered independents, but you tend to be pretty politically conservative. You have a tendency to vote for the Republican Party. You are both representing this new generation of people that are going to be a lot harder to capture based on here's what I'm doing about taxes and here's what we did in Washington. What would your message be to the Republican Party to capture that feeling again in order to bring conservative traditional values into the 2020s and beyond? Chrissy, let's start with you.
Yeah, just speak to us, plain and simple. We as Gen Z have an incredible authenticity meter. We can level it really easily. It's why certain content creators will go mega viral and certain people won't, even though they could be doing the exact same thing. One can come across a more authentic than the other. And that is really what was lost on the stage. It's what's lost in the entire style. It's what's lost in Fox News. It's why you see content creators like, let's be honest, Isabel, I'm going to pump you up for a second. You, in any other world, would be on Fox News being like an anchor or whatever, but you have a semblance of where the future of the industry is going, and it's simply not going that way. And so I just wish that the GOP candidates would listen a little bit more to what Vivek is doing and just take the wall down, okay? Use TikTok, even if it's on a separate phone that you purchase for your campaign, and you have a campaign staffer that uses the TikTok. Utilize it. Talk to us. Be authentic. Stop giving us these stupid scripted lines. I don't want to hear your scripted tax policy crap anymore, okay? I want to hear how you're going to help me afford a house because I can't afford a house right now, okay? Like, I want all of that stripped away. I want the authenticity. The first person give it to me without coming across MG know-it-all, Vivek. I will be all on board with that. So I'm waiting for it. My vote is out for the taking. I leave it to you.
I would say Republicans need to stop pandering to the most reliable part of their party. Like, I think in so many ways, we constantly, or Republicans in general, pander to that older generation, war veterans, boomers, and I get it. Like, they are a huge part of the Republican Party, but they are a solidly reliable vote. That would be like running for president and spending the entirety of your time in California or New York that are going to go blue no matter how much time you spend there. Like, there is, in terms of talking to the next generation, focus 80% of your energy to that rather than vice versa, throwing 80% of your energy, time, money, commitment to the people who are already going to vote for you. And again, I don't want to take those voters for granted by any stretch of the imagination, but understand that they're not going anywhere. You think those like older Republican voters are all of a sudden going to switch parties and vote for like the trans agenda? Like, it's not happening.
No.
They're solidly there. Let's put more effort, more energy into getting the next generation to understand conservative values and conservative morality, and just rely on the people that we've been able to rely on for a long time, people who already understand that, and put our efforts elsewhere.
Powerful.
Can I say one more thing too?
Chrissy, go ahead.
Can I say one more thing about this? And it's Ron DeSantis. If I had a message for Ron DeSantis, answer the abortion question. Like, if I could give him one piece of advice, answer it, because no one is going to be upset. In fact, your poll numbers will probably spike if you answer it the way Nikki answers it. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying it will do well in America. Americans overwhelmingly agree that there should be a 15-week ban on abortion after 15 weeks. I just speak the truth. Say they're not going to put a blanket abortion, which is clearly what he's saying. He's saying, I'm going to leave it with the states. Just say it. Stop pussyfooting around it and just say it. That is my biggest qualm with him right now. But that's all I have.
I think you both are right on the money with a lot of this analysis, just understanding that at the 30,000 foot level, far beyond any individual campaign, far beyond any individual debate performance, there seems to be a disconnect with soon to be the biggest voter bloc in American history, and a party that's really desperately trying to get back into a position of influence and power. And so much of that has to do with how we communicate traditional conservative ideas and even objective truth, and where we communicate those ideas, but also how you come across, your charisma, your ability to connect with people, to tell a compelling human interest story. All of those things I've been really disappointed to be seen as missing so far going into the 2024 cycle, really across the board, everywhere in politics, regardless of what side of the aisle we're talking about, pretty much with every single candidate. So I hope that people are able to hear that analysis from you both. I think you represent the vast majority of the people in our generation who are just looking for something to have hope in again, looking for a purpose to have again. And I really do have nothing but hope if the people in positions of leadership are willing to adapt and change here just a little bit. So fingers crossed as we get closer to Miami, the next debate at the beginning of November, which I'm super excited about. Really quick for both of you, can you just tell everybody watching where they can find you and help support your content and follow your journey as content creators?
Of course, you can find me on Instagram at the Chrissy Clark. Chrissy is with a CH and a Y. And then you can find me on TikTok or Twitter at Chrissy Clark _.
Awesome. Jobob?
Don't follow me on the internet. Come see us on tour, freedomcomedyevents.com. Way more fun. And I don't know, you'll if you follow me on the internet, you'll just be disappointed of mostly pictures of my baby. That's less political commentary than I think a lot of the political commentary and commentators.
Well, I'll say for me, I follow for the baby pics at this point, so let's be totally honest. I love you guys both so much. Thank you for joining us on the stream today. Great conversation, and we will have to do this again maybe after the Newsom-DeSantis debate here coming up. Really exciting, fun stuff. We'll have you both back on very soon. I am so glad our friends were able to join us on the stream today. Huge apologies. I was trying to fix stuff in real time there with Chrissy's connection and microphone. I know that was really distracting, and you guys got a lot of commentary about that in the chat. My apologies. She is so fantastic and absolutely love her content. Love the show that she does every day. She's fighting the good fight in all of the best ways possible. So next time we have her on, we'll make sure that her mic is a little bit more tuned in. But I hope that you guys still enjoyed all of the commentary that she had to provide, because she is wicked smart and has so many good commentary pieces to provide in this conversation. Both Jobob and Chrissy, thank you so much for joining us. I promised I would give you a little bit more of my 2 cents on the other side of the conversation. So we'll do that real quick before we jump over to locals for our post-stream Q&A today. Ultimately, I want people to hear the criticism and or opportunities for constructive feedback that we're providing in this conversation as a positive thing, right? I think a lot of times, especially in the conservative movement, especially if you are not like diehard supporting the RNC or a particular candidate and you happen to be a little bit more independently minded like the three of us were, if you provide constructive criticism and feedback to what we are overtly witnessing from a completely objective viewpoint going wrong in the conservative movement's messaging or lack thereof to the next generation and to new potential voters, you often get labeled as like a fake conservative, or you're some rhino evil sellout that actually supports the World Economic Forum and you are just a terrible globalist bought and paid for. To the contrary, if you really, really care about a lot of the values that we all share, about wanting to make a change culturally and politically in our country, you need to be willing to analyze what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. You need to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, we can do better and we need to be doing better if we want to win, right? Professional athletes sit there during the week before they start playing their game on the weekend or before they go to a major sporting event, and they watch gameplay. They watch videotapes of themselves playing to figure out what they can do better. People who compete in speech and debate tournaments, even in high school, have a coach to tell them what they're doing wrong and what they could be doing better. I find it really troubling that what we've seen in a post-Trump presidency era in the conservative movement and the Republican Party is really centered around you're not allowed to criticize, you're not allowed to provide any constructive feedback, and you're certainly not allowed to admit when you're losing. And that's a really dangerous, scary reality for us to be in as we inch closer to 2024. I said this all the way leading up to the 2022 election last year as well. When you're unwilling to admit we are being bested at this, we should try something new, we should pivot, we should reinvent ourselves, we should try something different, or even just communicate in a new way, because you're going to get labeled a fake supporter or a rhino or a sellout or not a real conservative for doing so. It's a really, really scary reality to be in, and you can probably kiss any chances of winning goodbye. And I'm very worried about that going into 2024, as anyone should be. And I say all of these things because I care, because nothing would make me happier than if we were able to take our country back from people who are proponents of abortion on demand, than if we were able to take our country back from people who want you to eat bugs and lab-grown meat instead of support local farmers and ranchers. Nothing would make me happier than if we were able to take our country back from people who say 12-year-olds should be going through menopause instead of puberty because that's more accepting or more loving of people. We just have to be willing to acknowledge where we can be better and what we can do differently. I actually really enjoyed Jobob's suggestion there that the debate format and the standing behind podiums, getting 15 seconds of television sound bites format really is outdated and doesn't work in our modern forms of communication for how we convey ideas and news today. I would love to see, even scheduled separately from any of the future debates coming up, a roundtable discussion or like more of a casual sit-down environment rather than the formal suit-wearing behind podiums debate. A roundtable discussion like a podcast format or a live stream where all of the candidates could actually sit down and actually talk, have a conversation instead of those little sound bites that, let's be honest, they're not really utilizing anyway. They are just fighting over one another and screaming over each other's voices to say, I am going to be a better president than you. Somebody like a Patrick Bet-David, for example, moderating a sit-down conversation with every single one of those people with microphones and over-ear headphones and the opportunity to just calmly talk to each other instead of try to fit all of your talking points into one 15-second soundbite that no one can hear you talk in anyway, would be a really interesting idea. Or like a Joe Rogan moderating a presidential forum or a roundtable more than a debate, I think would be able to convey each individual candidate's policies and each individual candidate's platforms in a far more constructive environment than 15-second sound bites standing behind debate podiums on television. I'll reiterate again, I said earlier at the beginning of the stream, I was pretty disappointed in the questions that weren't asked. There were plenty of questions that were asked that were really great, but not nearly enough questions about where people, ordinary Americans, are really struggling and where we desperately need leadership today, where really concerning things are happening behind the curtain in our own United States government, and where we desperately need leadership, like what we talked about yesterday with the CIA AI program, like with the rise of the divorce rate and the fall of the marriage rate in America, and the nuclear family being so fundamentally under attack, like the gender issue that we're dealing with at every age, but particularly with our generation and more. There are so many important cultural issues and initiatives that are wreaking havoc on our society today and completely upending and turning upside down our day-to-day lives that are never asked in political debates, even though they impact every single one of us every single day. So I was really disappointed in some questions that weren't asked, although there were some that were asked that I appreciated. And if I were able to convey a message at all to the Republican Party going closer to the next debate in Miami in November and just closer to the 2024 election, it would be this. It is time for us to be unapologetic about our values. It is time for us to stop apologizing, stop providing half in, half out answers, stop ducking questions because we're afraid of how it might harm polling numbers or make people not like you anymore. It is time for us to be unapologetic and proud of our values and proud of objective truth. Chrissy provided there at the end some suggestions for the DeSantis campaign about wanting to stand more firmly on the abortion issue. I said earlier that I was really pleasantly taken aback by how Vivek stood up for the transgender issue for children in particular last night, that we acknowledged this is a mental health crisis that the next generation is going through. But we desperately, across the board, especially on these controversial political and cultural issues, need to stop being half in, half out. We need to stop being wishy-washy, and we need to stop apologizing for what our values are on the side of objective truth. It is a beautiful and powerful thing to be pro-life, to say that we do not support the violent homicide and dismemberment of babies in the womb because they are an inconvenience to us. It is a beautiful and powerful thing to say that a 12-year-old girl should be able to be a girl, should be able to feel proud of her femininity and proud of the identity that God gave her, and shouldn't be undergoing double mastectomies or voluntary hysterectomies to put her through menopause before she ever goes through puberty. It is a powerful and beautiful thing to say that you support making it easier to start and run a business in this country because you want to lift people out of poverty and be able to help make financial stability happen in this country. And we could keep going example by example by example, but I feel like on so many of these really controversial issues in particular, what I am seeing across the board for everybody in at least one example is almost being apologetic or ducking the question entirely on where you stand on the gender issues, on healthcare, on the lack of healthcare, I would say, in transitioning children or through the abortion industry, on being pro-life. There are countless other examples, but those ones stand out to me right now. And we're not just seeing that from the people on that stage. We're even seeing that from Donald Trump, right? I mean, we've seen a really interesting, I want to make everybody happy, be on both sides of any issue. I don't really want to provide my own moral compass on these things. But interestingly, if you look at just the abortion example in isolation, a 15-week abortion ban, which is this random number we've talked about a lot in America that seems to be the new consensus for the Republican Party, polls exactly the same as a 6-week heartbeat abortion ban, like what we instituted here in the state of Florida after Ron DeSantis's re-election for governor. And it actually ended up boosting his credibility and the people who really wanted to rally around him here in the state of Florida after he took a hard position on that issue and said, this is the right thing to do. Even if it might be politically unpopular in certain places of the country, this is the right thing to do. To any candidate that might be listening to this or anybody on their team who wants to convey this to their boss, you will lose nothing from raising the bar, morally speaking. You will lose no credibility by saying, I can appreciate if you might disagree with me, but my conscience, my morality, my moral compass dictates this is where I stand, and these are my values. You can agree with me or you can choose to disagree with me, but this is where I stand. You will gain all of the credibility and respect in the world if you are able to stand on your own 2 feet. And I'm very, very tired of seeing any political candidate on the right side of the aisle try to shuffle in between making everybody happy and saying, well, you know, I don't know where I stand. We should just let everybody else decide. I don't want to take a stance on this. Because newsflash, the other side isn't doing that. The other side has a standard. They have a moral floor that everyone is expected to rise to, even if it might not match your definition of morality. And if we cannot be willing to stand for something, you will be able to compromise and lose your values on everything, which is the farthest identity from the President of the United States humanly possible. Be unapologetic about your values. Be proud of the things that you believe in. Be willing to take a moral stand that you think might not be politically popular, but might challenge this country to be better. Because across the board, culturally and politically, we have seen America lead a race to the bottom. Economically, through our education system, through the entertainment industry, through our culture in general, and certainly in the loss of morality. We have let vices become our morals while we have run away from virtues because we are afraid people are going to judge us for embracing virtue. It is high time that we look for leadership and we empower leadership and voices in the media and the entertainment industry and the education system and parents and any other role of leadership in society to stand for what is right, even if it is the hard thing to do, because that is what the President of the United States is supposed to be all about. That is the type of leadership that we desperately need to see out of the next POTUS and whoever's occupying the Oval Office. And truthfully, I haven't really seen that as a standout quality from any candidate on any political party's lineup of candidates or anyone saying they want to be the President of the United States moving forward. Just my 2 cents. I don't know if it matters much to any of you, but I do think a generational perspective is often quite helpful in breaking all of this stuff down, especially as Gen Z is soon to be the biggest voter bloc America has ever seen going into the next couple of election cycles, and millennials together with Gen Z already outweigh every other voting bloc in America. So it's time to shake things up and try some new things. I'm very excited for the next presidential debate coming to Miami, where I live, in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be working on some really exciting interviews and other post-debate analysis coming then, as well as potentially repeating this panel with a better mic situation, I promise, after the DeSantis-Newsom debate coming up on News TV. Is it Fox that's moderating this? I think it's Hannity that's moderating it, if I remember correctly. But we're excited to have a lot more to say and excited to see how all of these candidates continue to evolve throughout the presidential election cycle. Thank you guys all so much for being here and participating in this conversation. I'm so grateful for all of you guys joining our little community on this corner of the internet. And we are about to jump over to our locals community, which is a bit more of an intimate experience if you are looking to make some new connections and friends with people who share your values. We do a little post-game Q&A every single day after the stream over there, and we would love to invite every single one of you guys to come as well. We also have exclusive content that only exists on locals. We're doing a book club and some movie nights and all kinds of really exciting stuff, including IRL meetups in person very soon just for our locals supporters. So if you guys are looking for a greater sense of intimacy to get to know me better and me get to know you better and make some friends along the way, locals is where it's at. Please consider clicking on that link I just dropped in our live chat to join us for our post-stream Q&A. And as you're leaving the stream today, do me a huge favor if you haven't already and like this stream. That could look like a little thumbs up button or a little heart. Ring the notification bell so that you always know when we are going live or uploading a new video. And you know the drill. Most importantly, smash that follow or subscribe button wherever you are watching to help these channels continue to grow and help these conversations get to where they need to get most desperately. We are back for the stream tomorrow, Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. But in the meantime, I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, and Getter. We will see you tomorrow for Friday afternoon stream. Locals, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.